Let's go. Greg's got the news, Danny's got the flair. One talks the cloud, the other's out there. Servers spinning, bites keep grinning. Tech talk laughs, let's get the show winning. Cyberwise guys, we're cracking the code. Tech and juggles on overload. Urge your dreams, cybersecurity schemes. It's the podcast you need, like coffee and memes.
Welcome to CyberWise Guys, where we break down the latest trends, threats, technologies in cybersecurity, helping you stay one step ahead and cyber-wise. Our guest today is Grady Johnston, Director of Global Business Development with eSentire. Welcome to the program, Grady. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Enjoying the cool, brisk morning in the Georgia mountains. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, I know for us, I want to welcome you, obviously, and our listeners and viewers. It's been a while. We took some time for the summer. Right, we all deserve a little bit of break and enjoy some well-deserved time off. So again,
Danny, it gave me a chance to work on my tan, by the way.
Well, it doesn't seem you did like a good job. You need to go back to the tanning salon, maybe.
Well, I only do IT very well, so that's my problem.
Fantastic. So, Grady, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience? Introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners and viewers, and then we can take the conversation from there, maybe.
Sounds good. Kind of my background's a little diverse. I've been on multiple sides of the fence. What I mean by that is I've been the VP of product, I've been a CIO, a CISO, as well as built global channels, worked very closely in the partner network ecosystem, all about, connecting the dot and kind of, maturing and working together to kind of grow organizations. So it's majority of my background, 30-something years. I'm feeling awfully old, but been very busy. So.
Well, we're happy to have you. And what I would like to start with and get your take on, given your experience both in the physical and in the cyber world, is what is on everybody's mind now. And that's the AI integration, right? And how it affects maybe security leaders. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions companies have when they starting to look at AI and how to integrate that into their security systems, and in general, maybe not even security, but even different applications that they want to build AI into? What do they need to do? What are they looking at? What are some of the misconceptions they're thinking of, or they think that they know, but they don't know, and so forth? If you wouldn't mind maybe starting at that point, we can keep up the conversation.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of organizations need to think of what are they looking to do. I mean, what I mean by that is there's already, depending on the role, for an example, if you're walking in as a CIO or a CISO, there's already AI in your infrastructure. Your organization doesn't even know it's there. It's sitting there. It's collecting data. It's learning what your organization's doing. So you got to step back and say, okay, how is this AI enabling us? But also at the same time is, what kind of structure can I put around this to make sure that we know what's going on and what's actually been tested and is been properly, controlled. Always step back, look at the policies. None of them probably have been updated and God who knows when. So map those out, and then also go back and do a software review. What I mean by that is all the products that are in your infrastructure have all rolled out AI. You just no one's been informed you yet that it's already out there collecting data and kind of understanding those pieces. But then also, you cross the platform if you have a software development team on, okay, as we're building out these solutions, what are they leveraging? And then what are they looking to enable? What's the core platform? What have they looked at with those AI solutions on? Where is it going? How are they standardizing on a platform specifically like Microsoft? Or they where are they going? Because then you've got to be able to look at those and tie the integrations and also understand best practices, because a lot of the development teams, a lot of the organization might understand best practices, but they don't follow the best practices. So as a CISO, a security person, you've got to go back and do that education, but you've also got to step back and try not to be the cop. What I mean by that is when you go in there and say point blank, you can't do that, it doesn't work out. You've got to be able to go in there and say, this is the issue, this is how you solve it. So you've got to really, as you learn across the board what they're trying to do, what the strategy is, also help them create those playbooks. It's very important that as companies are looking at AI, they're bringing their security people to the table. They're bringing their development team and all the other pieces of the organization, but keep it a very tight group, because any bigger than that, the politics will slow everything down. You really got to have a clear understanding and a roadmap of what you guys are looking to do and what core platforms you want to leverage and what are your expertise. A lot of times you pick in a solution that nobody has expertise on. What does that mean? That means you're bringing a lot of people from outside to tell you how to program this, but how are you going to check to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? I know quite a few organizations that have acquired organizations and to get their data and move them over to other platforms, but nobody was there to give them best practices or what I call a playbook. And when they shifted up there, they literally left the back doors open from the previous company. So they literally, I got a call going, hey, do you know how to fix this? Or you know anybody at this platform company? Because I'm pretty sure we're leaking data. And it all goes back to best practices. So it's all about planning and making sure you go through the process, make sure that you have the right team in place. I mean, it's interesting a lot of times that people like get pushed down to go towards an AI solution. They're like, okay, let's start throwing these pieces together, but there's no plan. You got to step back. You got to step back and whiteboard, and you got to say, okay, what are we trying to do? What expertise do we have, and where do we need to fill the holes, and who do we trust? Because rushing to grab people and bring things in never works out, and that cost will stretch out, and not to mention knows what doors are left open.
Right.
I hope that answered. I'm all over the place.
That's all right. So are we.
Yeah,
Well, you're on the right show there, Grady. Hey, I do have a thought. You said a lot of things in there that kind of spurred little tangents for me, but I am interested in when it comes to the security side. So a SOC that is trying to harvest or use AI to be more efficient. Where do we find that balance, right? Because we have to maintain a balance of human interaction and human reasoning, and then the efficiency that a SOC can have by using AI. We don't want to go one way or the other. We don't want to make AI so irrelevant that nobody ever uses it. But at the same time, we don't want to take humans out of the chain. So where is that medium? Where do we find the synergy between the two? And how does that balance work within an organization, say like eSentire, for example?
Oh, for eSentire, for example, that's a good question. I mean, they've been around for about 20 years. So we collect data across the board on all types of security products that we're managing and supporting. So we have a pretty huge lake of data and information. So what we do is the SOC team will actually leverage an AI, machine learning AI, or whatever you want to call it these days. And we'll actually pull it up and we'll actually have it monitoring and seeing anomalies or something that we've told to keep an eye out for. They'll come back and tell us. We'll actually pull up another AI here and say, hey, do some research on this. Well, I'm digging into this here to leverage the AI to be another analyst beside you. So being able to pull the data up, and also as we learn, we see what we can do to teach the AI to, hey, if you see this, stop this and that. Then we take it over here to test it. Another AI runs against that to make sure it's running smoothly. But it's always in human touch to double check to make sure, because as anybody who's done a search or anything like that, it might miss, kind of phrased it properly, or depending on who the person's done it, who did the first AI, and how you phrase it, you can come back with a bunch of junk. So you got to constantly look at it and tweak it and filter it and update it. And then you move it over to production and be able to really leverage internally. AI should be just another tool for a forensics person and also analyst, but at the same time, it helps automate and bring down the common noise that's out there.
So nice. When does it become too much as far as a SOC? So my thought here is, say the interaction with an end customer or a partner, they have a security concern. Is there such thing as too much AI?
I don't think, I always think that it's important to have that human interaction, especially with the client. I mean, you've got to sit down and strategize and kind of look at things at a different angle. What I mean by that is, let's for example, I was a CISO and eSentire was my MDR. All right. That's how I came over here. So I actually had an incident happen at 4:00 in the morning. I got notified. I logged into the portal, and eSentire had spotted something, had isolated within our laptop and quarantined it. All was done by AI response, and it came to their team. They looked at it, and I told them that if they see this, to immediately lock it down. So they locked it down. They reached out, and then I got on the phone and they walked through what they did. I could see it in the portal, but as you know, it's good to walk through the pieces and then kind of analyze and come up with ideas on how to correct this. I think that's always going to be needed, because who knows what's going on. And sometimes it's just good to talk to someone and walk through it. I used to give classes on crisis management, and sometimes that human touch will help bring somebody from not going to the basement, if you know what that means, and be able to kind of strategize and really see the whole picture. The AI is great for being able to trigger responses or pulling information back to you, but sometimes there's always something new that the AI might think, I think this is what it is, but there's got to be a human to say, that is what it is, or at least let me dig into it.
So you've mentioned earlier AI being another tool. I'm not going to say just, but another tool. And if it's a tool for the defenders, right? Let's say at the eSentire SOC, right? It's also a tool in the hands of the bad actors, right? So what are your thoughts? And again, we had in a previous episode, we had a person by the name of Itai Maor. He's a researcher. And he was talking about AI lowering the bar for attackers. In the eSentire SOC, do you see more AI-based attacks that are kind of like coming in from, I would say, new actors that are leveraging AI?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see a lot. I guess that's from my own experience. And then what we see here, I mean, that's been going on for like the last 6 years or more, like basic machine learning, but it's gone to the next level now because it's state actors supported. That's why it's important. It's funny to me in IT and security, it's usually the same things you'll hear from everybody. Don't click on that email unless you know what it is. Make sure your patches and your updates are there. It's all the same stuff, because that's what those AIs are constantly hitting and pinging to see where they can get in, walk around and switch things over. It's all very much the same. And the crazy thing is, I've been in companies as a CISO where I'm not joking, sitting at the cubicle, and I can hear the senior executive behind me saying that he needs his laptop fixed and his password is password. So it's very much, I'm not, believe me, that's been recent. So that's the thing is, AI will learn what we can teach that. And you can teach it all the basic default passwords. You can teach it all the basic access points. When my previous life, I owned a security firm where I did a lot of stuff for power utilities and all that stuff. I could literally sit in the parking lot and piggyback on password default Wi-Fi and go right into your accounting package. And I could literally turn the power off for the whole city. And it was just basic stuff that you should know better. But you'll hear one of my biggest things I don't like in the world when somebody says that I assumed. Never assume. Always go back and double check, because it's the little things, especially in security, every single time. It's the little things that will do you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's no, that's great, Grady. That brings up another question. So we have different partners and organizations that will come to us and ask questions like, hey, I know that I've not put a lot of effort into cybersecurity. I want to get started, but I don't know where to start with prioritization. What do I prioritize so I significantly start reducing my risk of being an easy target?
I mean, for me, the kind of work your way inside out and outside in. What I mean by that is look at, of course, the endpoint, making sure that whatever you have out there is up to date and is moving smoothly. And then at the same time, what are your critical assets? Sit down and rank them if you don't know, like on a spreadsheet, and go, what will happen if this goes down? And what's my backup here? And
right.
And on a side note too, is I recommend anybody, I don't care if you're 5 people or more, you should always do a tabletop of sitting down going, okay, what's going to keep me up from, so this happens, what's going to get me to get back up and running? So endpoint, and then for Lily, like I said, in, out. For me, when I was a CISO, I walked into an organization that had 4 companies that had just been merged together. And as somebody's dealt with that, nobody knows where anything's at, even though they tell you they think they know where it's at. It's not there. And then I had an InfoSec team. It was great. But at the same time, some of them hadn't had the skill set. They had been moved over from their salary pay, not for job skills, in which you'll see a lot in organizations as well. So what I did was I picked out an MDR because I needed somebody to support me as I got the team up to go. And I went through all that whole process and ended up picking eSentire. And you've looked for a technology relationship, a partner that's going to be a partner. So they sit down with me and went through my run book, but also looked at all my policies. So that's another thing too, is first thing, look at your policies, whatever security solution out, the Defender or whatever, look at what are you enforcing, make sure it's hitting all your key compliances that you need to cover for your SOC audit. If you don't have a SOC audit, you should be focusing on security level, at least a SOC 2 audit. And then also go through that whole process. And same thing with the endpoint. Who's monitoring all that information? There's 90% or more noise that your IT team's trying to look at. And I will tell you right now, they're not looking at it. So you've got to be able to shorten that down. For me, it's shortened down by 85% because any kind of security thing happens, your team has to pivot and you're already short staffed. So if they're pivoting to respond to some security piece, all these projects you get paid your bonus on down the road aren't going to happen. So you don't get that. And then you also have the security threat that risks you. So, sorry, I'm it's a tangent, but inside, outside, in. So I see the whole
absolutely.
Which maybe brings, I don't know, Grady, maybe brings up the question of, you've mentioned short-staffed organizations being short-staffed and underpaid, which is probably always the case. Everybody feels that way. So how important is it for different organizations, no matter which vertical or industry they're coming from, is to deploy services of the SOC, kind of to go into a SOC as a service? Because not every organization obviously can build one for themselves, right? It's quite an adventure and an expensive one. So what would you say, when should an organization kind of say, you know what, I need an outside help monitoring my environment, whether it's like on one cloud or whether it's on multi-cloud or hybrid perhaps? When do you think is the right moment for them to say, okay, I need outside help, let me reach out to a SOC provider and tap into that as a service option, if you will?
Well, I mean, it depends on the size of the organization. For me, I mean, I think if you're touching anything security compliance wise, you should immediately look at something, and you should look at something that has a kind of a core platform that's flexible. What I mean by that is, when I took over the last organization, I came in, we had SentinelOne, a bunch of other security solutions, but I was told to move it to Microsoft. All right. So I went to start moving everything to Microsoft, but I didn't have the skill set internally on some of the Microsoft solutions. I don't think I had skill set for what we had already, but that's a whole different story. But we started rolling that out. And then for you to manage all those pieces and compliance and security, and not mention after hours, and then, someone who has really expertise within Microsoft. But again, something that's a core platform that you're not getting pushed any other solution where you can leverage what you have, and then you can make a decision down the road to change things as needed. Yeah. So I had picked eSentire specifically because it integrates with all the different solutions out there. So I literally had to roll out Microsoft, put the platform on top, and was able to pull all that data in, almost a little parallel with the MSSP I had prior, and some of the solutions to make sure it was an easy cut over. So I was able to do that. Then I was able to sit back and kind of look at the maturity of the Microsoft I had in place, see the responses. And also, if you pick a right solution, you'll have a great portal to really see what's going on in your infrastructure, and will actually tell you if you're pretty close to being compliant or not. I don't know if you've leveraged some of these solutions that are built into, I like Microsoft, but I want to make this anyways. Some of these solutions that are in there, because I tell you the compliancy level you're at, it's very complicated and hard to deal with. And then there's some other solutions as well. So it was a platform where I could focus all my products, security solutions towards it. It could give me a detailed report of what's going on internally, but I could also see the health of the organization. So I pick something that's flexible where you can change if you need to. And then also is in line with your playbook and process. So recap, I would literally say any organization that touches security compliancy, like HIPAA, SOC, stuff like that, you got to have something in place, because your team is short-staffed. They're not going to be able to totally do 24/7 and the weekends coverage and do their core projects as well. If you're constantly changing or acquiring organizations, your InfoSec team and your IT are going to be so busy with the acquisitions, the merger piece of it, you need somebody to make sure that your fences are up and someone's monitoring, make sure those policies are up to date. So
it's interesting, Grady. You talk about the skill sets for different security tools out there. The big question I think comes to mind when I hear discussion like that is with new analysts coming online, guys and girls who are leaving, graduating from college, or maybe career changers like myself. What should they be focused on? Now, specifically because AI has now become such an important part of pretty much everything, or it's supposedly going to be a important part of everything. What should a young, and I mean young by experience, what should a young cybersecurity person who wants to get in and really make a difference in cybersecurity, what should they be focusing on?
What they should be focusing on is a couple of things, I think. I sit on the advisory board for a university here on cybersecurity. So what I tell them is to look at the way that AIs are currently using in the infrastructure right now, because in the old days, it was all about the data. Now it's all about the business logic within your organization. All right. So being able to look at AIs and how they're structured, the different types of AIs that sit within the different verticals, but also really learn the cloud, how the AI is sitting in there, how it's tied in. When I started advising at this college about 4 years ago, they were doing, red team, blue team kind of drills and stuff like that, but no one had any cloud experience. So it was like, you can, the old ways of, basic hacking and stuff like, you got to step back on, everything's connected in the cloud. Everything's connected. You've got to be able to look how the AI sits, how the core platforms sit, how their security solutions sit, and how these other layers are on top of them, because one way or another, they're leveraging those pieces, but it's all connected. All that data is connected. So I would say, look at the AI, understand how those security solutions that are sitting within the platforms, and also how the ecosystem is tied together within that. So that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. That's great.
So that would probably be great for like the newcomers into the field, right? Like Greg said earlier, that the less experience, or the people that wants to get into the field. I want to draw, with your extensive experience, I want to draw your focus for a second actually to the leadership, right? Organizations leadership, whether within the security space, or I would say the broader sense of an organization. And obviously they need to be the leaders in organization, not just in the business sense, but in the security space. Like you said earlier, right? Mentioned earlier about the executive that sat behind you that said that his password was password. So in the era of AI-driven transformation, right? What advice from your experience would you give business leaders, not security leaders, business leaders around security and how they should behave internally?
I think they should step back and, see how AI is affecting businesses, how it's all tied together. A lot of times, it's more about, be careful what I behave here, but it's all about the marketing, what they hear, the information being told, but they don't see how it's really tied together, the AI and the information. So it's good to step back and bring their leadership in, their CIO or CTO. So, okay, guys, explain to me how this is affecting our infrastructure, and then also explain to me what we're doing with AI exactly. So they really need to step back and know what their infrastructure is doing, what they're doing internally, and hear that. Again, that goes back to why it's so critical to do at least twice a year the tabletop, because that's when those executives really get a little scared, and then they also realize, okay, they have questions, because somebody, this for an example, I've seen it where an accounting department was VPN into their machines at home, their machines in the office to do work. Okay. What if somebody came in and hijacked that, got in the accounting system, and not just, bread for payday? It was, I wait for payday if I was a hacker, and you capture that, but at the same time, you piggyback and transfer money out. What are you going to do then? How are you going to pay the employees? I mean, it's all about kind of teaching them the process, but also showing them the enablement piece of this. The more they get to understand, the more they see how that will actually save too. It's cost savings and enablement, because a lot of these organizations have, I'm not joking, 5 or 6 applications or software things that do exactly the same thing, but they just been layering off and they're paying for it, and they don't see how this is all tied together and how it's overlaid. And then at the same time, if they understand where they're going with the AI, it might be something they can use internally. So if they're building an AI internally for a product, they should be using it internally instead of teaching some chat box or something else, their business logic. They could literally have it sitting there learning their business. It becomes another asset. And it's also another way of speeding up their process. And at the same time, they can streamline the job roles. Like these are people with expertise on their jobs that you could actually leverage them to do more with other stuff instead of basic operational backend. So it's cost savings and understanding and safety and compliance, because nowadays executives get held accountable for that. Mm-hmm. So they really need to understand that they're at risk as well.
Right. Awesome.
I want to ask you, Grady, a question about the True team over at eSentire SOC. We had the chance to meet them, learn from them, but I think it's important for the listeners and viewers of this podcast to understand there's also offensive capabilities and threat hunting. I'm really interested in your take about offensive capabilities and how eSentire's True team is going out there hunting for the benefit of your customers.
No, I mean, that's one of the really positive things, and one of the reasons I selected them was they're constantly looking and monitoring, not just across the 2,000 plus clients, but also out there on everything else from the dark web, looking constantly of what's changing, what's up there, what's been posted. Mm-hmm. And then they immediately start researching on how to defend it, how to go after it. I mean, you heard the story about how we were able to pinpoint a North Korean agent mm-hmm. working for a couple of companies in the US, and we just started looking around, paying attention, looking at where the IP addresses are going. We're constantly researching. We're constantly looking at what's going on in our clients' infrastructure, but also what's going on out there. And that's leveraging our team that has vast knowledge, mm-hmm. but also leveraging those AIs as well. Doing the comparison, doing the research together with their AI buddies, pulling information and doing comparison. It's critical. If you don't have an MDR that's constantly looking, constantly updating your rules mm-hmm. before it even happens, I mean, that's the huge plus. I mean, you never, as I said before, with an IT staff, it's always hard to get to those rules. And there's always like a product release before the rules gets pushed out another 2 weeks. And by then, that automatic AI from that state organization is probably already inside your infrastructure. So it's always good to have some constant looking.
Absolutely. All right, Grady, question for you. How would you like the listeners to look at your advice? By that, I mean, what takeaway do you have for the audience? If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, more specifically, I'm looking at IT leaders and security decision makers. What one action should they take after this episode, after listening to the sage advice? And what would that action and how can they follow up with that?
My advice is always to step back and look at what you have. I know that you're going to be pushed to go left or right. You're going to have these costs like that. Sometimes it's good just to step back, whiteboard it out, have a one-on-one with your individual team, not everybody in the crowd, and just really step back, because we get so hammered by budget needs, the board meetings, the other stuff that we just think things are getting taken care of. We assume it's all being done back here, but there might be pieces here that are going on and we don't even know about that we're paying for. So it's just good to step back. So,
well, I'm going to leave, Grady, maybe the last point to you, if you want to address our very esteemed audience.
The bottom line of throughout my life and my career, it's about selecting the right partner who's going to help you out, who's going to have your, as they would say in the military, your six. It's all about constantly being active and being communicative and being able to share that information and be able to pick up the phone and ask for help. That's critical. And in security, everybody knows everybody has a friend they can call for specific things, and eSentire is here for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Greg. As always, it's a pleasure. And thank you for tuning in to Cyber Wise Guys, because staying secure means staying smart. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay cyber wise.
Let's go. Greg's got the news, Danny's got the flair. One talks the cloud, the other's out there. Servers spinning, bites keep grinning. Tech talk laughs, let's get the show winning.